Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I used to believe grief was slow. A tide, maybe, pulling you out, letting you breathe before it swallowed you again. But when my husband Jordan collapsed on the kitchen floor that October morning, grief arrived like a storm surge. Violent, sudden, permanent. He was gone before the ambulance made it halfway. A heart attack, they said. I barely remembered calling my brother Hunter. He showed up with Samantha hours later, her red nails clinking against her phone screen as she avoided my eyes. My 9-year-old daughter Polly clung to my sweater the whole funeral. "Will Daddy be cold?" she whispered once. I told her no, even though my own hands hadn't been warm in weeks. 2 months passed in a haze. I moved through our apartment like a ghost. Laundry undone, Polly's homework forgotten, dinner replaced by crackers. The only sound in our home was her voice trying to stay brave. That's when Hunter suggested it. Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Erica. A weekend away. Just family. You and Polly need this. I said nothing. Samantha chimed in. You can't grieve forever, you know. Fresh air heals. I nearly slammed the door, but Polly tugged my hand. Can we go, Mom? Please? I agreed. Saturday came wrapped in mist. We loaded into 2 cars, Hunter and his wife Samantha in their Subaru, Samantha's parents in the aging Ford Escape. Polly sat in the back seat next to her stuffed elephant, humming a tune Jordan used to sing. The deeper we drove into the Smokies, the quieter everything became. Cell signal faded. Civilization fell away behind trees painted gold and red. I tried to tell myself this was peace, not isolation. We set up camp near a stream. Tents were pitched, laughter rose over the crackling fire, and someone handed me a thermos of cider. Polly skipped rocks, giggling with her cousin. Samantha smiled thinly. See, just what you needed. I nodded, forced, polite. That night, as we sat under the stars, I caught myself almost smiling. Hunter told a joke. Samantha's father roasted marshmallows. For a breath of a moment, it felt like family. But the wind changed just before dawn. A shift in the air I couldn't explain. I wrapped my arms around Polly tighter inside the tent. I didn't know it yet, but this was the last night I would ever trust them again. The morning sun hadn't fully climbed the trees when Polly stirred beside me. "Mom," she whispered, breath fogging the cool air, "can we go see the lake again?" I smiled, brushing a leaf from her tangled hair. "Give me 5 minutes, sweetheart." But something was wrong. The camp was too quiet. No rustle of sleeping bags, no clang of a coffee pot on the fire ring. I unzipped our tent and stepped out. My breath caught. Everything was gone. The other tents, gone. The chairs we sat in just hours ago. Even the vehicles. The clearing was stripped bare, save for the pine needles and flattened grass where the others had been. Only our small tent remained, lopsided and sad. "Where's everyone?" Polly's voice trembled. I scanned around me, heart pounding. A single mug sat on the picnic table, still half full with cold cider. Underneath it, a torn sheet of notebook paper weighed down by a rock. I picked it up. "This is for the best. Trust me. Hunter?" I stared. My eyes moved over the words again and again. "For the best?" "Mom." Polly clutched my sleeve. "Did they leave us?" I folded the note slowly. "Yes," I whispered, though the word barely made it out. I turned in a circle, hoping, praying for some mistake. A prank. A twisted joke. But the tire tracks leading out of the clearing had already been half covered by fallen leaves. My legs felt hollow. No food. No phone. No map. I murmured aloud. "Why would they do this?" Polly asked, wide-eyed. I crouched down to her level, brushing a curl from her cheek. "I don't know, baby, but we're going to be okay." It was a lie. I opened my backpack, 2 protein bars, a water bottle, and an old compass I hadn't touched since high school scouts. It felt like nothing. It was nothing. "We'll follow the stream," I said, forcing calm into my voice. "It might lead us to a road, or a ranger station." Polly nodded, trying to be brave. As we packed up what little we had, I felt the trust inside me shatter like glass. Hunter hadn't abandoned us. He planned this. And somewhere between the betrayal and the towering trees, I made a promise. We would survive. We had to. The forest had teeth. By the third day, Polly's lips were cracked, her cheeks hollow. She didn't complain, only blinked slower, walked quieter, like her small body was learning how to disappear. We followed the stream deeper into the woods, hoping it might guide us toward rescue. But the forest only grew denser. My legs ached, scraped from brush. I saved the last protein bar for Polly. "Mom," she said hoarsely, "are we lost?" I stopped, forcing a smile. "No, honey. We're finding our way." Lie number 2. That night, rain crashed down like war drums. I tried to light a fire with damp twigs and a useless lighter, but everything hissed and died in the smoke. We were soaked to the bone. Polly shivered beneath the emergency blanket, her teeth clattering. I held her close, my own lips silent with rage and fear. I had to act. The rain let up by dawn, leaving a silver fog behind. I scoured the ground for mushrooms and berries I recognized from old foraging guides my father once made me read. "Learn now, nature doesn't care if you cry," he used to say. I never thought I'd use those lessons this way. On the 6th and then on the 9th day, I caught a fish with a makeshift spear. I hesitated, raw, still twitching, but there was no fire, no choice. Polly gagged at the first bite but swallowed. So did I. "Mom," she whispered that night, "do you think they ever meant to come back?" I pressed my lips to her forehead. No. A cold resolve grew inside me. This wasn't panic anymore. This was war. On the 12th day, I struck flint against a stone, again and again. My fingers bled. But a spark came, then flame. I fed it damp moss, watched it smoke and writhe. "Polly," I shouted, "get the green leaves." Thick gray smoke poured upward, a column against the canopy. Hours passed. Then, a hum in the distance. Chopper blades. I waved my arms, screaming, "Here, we're here." The helicopter circled, then hovered. A rope descended. We were lifted into the sky, burnt, bruised, but breathing. But as the forest fell away beneath us, I knew something darker waited back home. Hunter hadn't just tried to abandon us. He tried to erase us. The hospital walls were too clean, too still. After 12 days of wind, hunger, and the crackling breath of the forest, the silence inside made my skin crawl. Polly lay on the narrow bed, an IV in her arm, her small frame wrapped in layers of sterile white. She was safe, but the war wasn't over. 3 days after our rescue, the FBI arrived. Special Agent Keene slid a photo across the table. "Recognize this?" I stared at it. "Don't look for us. It will be better for everyone." "This was submitted with a petition to declare you and your daughter legally dead," he said, his voice low, controlled. "Hunter claimed you walked into the forest voluntarily, that you were depressed, that you meant to disappear." I clenched my fists. He lied. He also filed a $1.7 million insurance claim, Keene continued, and used a forged will to seize control of your company. Rage bloomed in my chest. Black Pine Coffee, everything Jordan and I built, had been handed over like a pawn in a crooked game. 2 days later, after being discharged from the hospital, I gave Keene everything I had, the original will, emails, texts, even voice messages Samantha had left, hinting at starting fresh after I was gone. A week later, I stood face to face with them all, Hunter, Samantha, and her parents, across a polished table in the district attorney's office. Hunter wouldn't meet my eyes. Samantha looked bored. Her father wore an expensive suit and a fake frown. "You really thought we wouldn't come back?" I asked, my voice razor sharp. Hunter muttered, "You weren't well." I slammed a file onto the table. "And forging my signature made that better?" David, my lawyer, leaned forward. "The judge has reviewed the evidence. There is more than enough to proceed to trial." A pause. Then the DA spoke. "We're pressing charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted unlawful inheritance, and endangering a minor." Hunter turned pale. Polly waited for me outside the courtroom. She looked up, eyes hopeful. "Did we win?" I knelt beside her. "Not yet. But they're not getting away with it." Because the fire that nearly consumed us in the forest hadn't died. It had followed me home. 7 months later, the courtroom was quiet as the verdicts were read. Hunter, guilty. Samantha, guilty. Her parents, guilty. Fraud, conspiracy, endangering a child. The judge's gavel struck like thunder, final and satisfying. Justice had spoken. Sentences range from 10 to 15 years. Polly and I moved far from the city, to a little house with chipped shutters and a garden overgrown with weeds. I want roses, Polly said, digging beside me one spring morning. Roses? I smiled. A whole bush. She nodded, her fingers dirty, her hair wild in the breeze. Like the one Daddy planted, we worked together, turning soil, planting hope. The silence between us wasn't hollow anymore, it was peace. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Polly leaned against me on the porch. Do you think they regret it? I looked at the roses beginning to bloom. Maybe. But that's not our story anymore, she whispered. We made it, didn't we? I kissed her forehead. Yes, baby. And we're still alive and have become much stronger.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.